everyone, welcome. My name's Charlie, and today we're returning to the island of Quinoa for our 11th month in Animal Crossing New Horizons. And our goals for this month: finish our final villager build and start decorating the empty spots left on the island, collect and craft every single golden tool, and earn ourselves at least 10 Nook Mile Stamps. Very ambitious, so we'll see how that turns out. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into it. As we hopped back onto the island, my biggest focus right out of the gate was catching the remaining bugs, fish, and sea creatures to complete our collections. I'd also made the executive decision at this point that collecting all the furniture items was way too far outside the scope of 100%ing this game, but what wasn't was collecting all the KK Slider songs. So to start us off, I grabbed the ones I had in storage and registered them in our record player. That's 26 down, 84 to go. Also, as a bit of an aside, I'm still kind of on the fence over whether getting all the DIY recipes should count toward 100% because there isn't an achievement for doing so, but I just don't know. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments on whether or not it should. Now, in the same vein of catching and donating all the critters, we also needed to catch a total of 5,000 bugs, 5,000 fish, and 2,500 sea creatures for their respective Nook Mile Stamps. This would be a lot of work, and probably some of the most daunting tasks on our journey to 100%. But with Clifford there as emotional support, I got to work. There were actually a couple other tasks we could accomplish while deep sea diving as well, like gifting scallops to Pascal and searching for our remaining sea creatures: the snow crab, spider crab, red king crab, and the sea pig, 3 of which were currently in season. While we were doing so though, something happened. Do you hear that? I hear that? What is that? Oh my gosh! It's my Tamagotchi screaming. Oh no, Boris! No! My dearest Tamagotchi Boris, who tragically passed in September of 2023. To this day, I still haven't edited the video of our adventures together due to just heartbreak. We even went to a Hosier concert together. But we had way too much to accomplish on Quinoa to be distracted by grief, so I tossed him in the hallway and continued on. Pay attention to him. Oh, he's so dead. By the end of this first day, we'd caught every single creature we were hunting for and donated them to the museum, netting ourselves 317 in total and 600 by our second day. It was looking like about 100 creatures per hour. Pretty rough. Simultaneously though, we'd also started to target the fish we had left: the stringfish, blowfish, tuna, barrel eye, and char. Pretty quickly, we managed to fish up a tuna and stringfish, but with the char not in season and the other ones only coming out after 9 p.m, I figured it would be a good idea to do some normal chores for a minute, like catching up on all my mail. I had a lot of mail. One cool thing, I was actually given 5,000 Nook Miles for fully decorating all my villagers' homes, which I actually streamed here on YouTube. I basically just try my best to match the theme for the outside of their houses, add a little immersion, and I'll show them on screen now very briefly, but fret not, I'll definitely be doing a more in-depth full island tour once we fully complete the game. For some reason, I felt oddly motivated by this letter, like it was Tom Nook telling me I was doing a great job. So I gathered up all my fish bait and returned to the water, determined to catch the blowfish and the barrel eye. I got a blowfish after about 20 minutes, but I could not find the barrel eye. It took forever, but at last, I had fished it up and brought it to the museum, leaving only one more fish to get. And being on such a roll, I figured, what the heck, why not work on our last insects too? The mole cricket and the ant. Now to lure out the ants, I went home and got some candy to place around the island as little traps. I did almost get murdered by a tarantula in the process, very frightening, but I laid those out and continued about my business, hoping that some ants would spawn while I did so. For one, I crafted a buttload of flimsy axes to work toward the DIY tools stamp, making sure to do it in resident services so Nook was forced to clap for me every time. And then I used said axes to chop wood for the rough hewn stamp and simultaneously collect fruit to cook for the Miles stamp. I'm killing a lot of birds with one stone here, let me tell you. The wood chopping continued the next morning, and honestly I was too lazy to check all the trees for wasps, so I just ended up dying a bunch of times. On top of wood chopping, another activity I needed to add to my daily to-do list was talking to my villagers. As I did so on this day, Melba actually gifted me the recipe for the peach smoothie, which would be super helpful for our fruit cooking endeavors, and Doc told me that his simple chair fit his butt perfectly, so never a dull moment. With this new knowledge, I proceeded to make a disgusting amount of peach smoothies, and then took a trip to Harv's Island for the first time in a while. To my surprise, Red was actually selling a basic painting, which I somehow still needed. We do still have to collect all the remaining art at some point too, but because Red visits super inconsistently and only restocks on Mondays, that was kind of on the back burner for now. Upon seeing recent Cyrus, though, I suddenly had an idea. One of the Nook Mile stamps was for refurbishing your furniture, and we only had 100 left until we'd completed it. I crafted a single wooden stool and then followed through with my master plan. I was gonna paint this stool 100 times. I bought myself 236 customization kits and then went to town, turning it a whole bunch of different colors for like an hour and a half straight and earning the last furniture freshener stamp. And with another scallop traded to Pascal, I decided to sleep until Sunday. Arguably the most stressful day of the week for me. Turnip day. If you're not aware, I am notoriously terrible at the stock market in this game. It's been my greatest challenge throughout the previous 10 months. Yet there was a Nook Mile stamp that required me to make 10 million bells in profit, so buy the turnips I must. The price was set at 100, which seemed way too high, but I still purchased 500 turnips and went on my way. Not only was I upset about my turnips, but I was also sad to see that no ants had fallen for my little candy traps. Not a single one. I lifted my spirits by chopping some wood and talking with all my villagers, who mostly just told me that I looked ugly. Bill did give me some medicine though, which was really sweet. I got stung again directly after using it. I am a creature of habit. I can't be tamed. With all the wood chopped, I made a stop at the museum and donated the basic painting I'd bought the day before and then cooked up a bunch more peach smoothies. I also caught some more sea critters and then hopped on the next day for the same song and dance. Chop wood, speak to my villagers, and cry over the lack of ants on my candy. Honestly, with so many repetitive, mind-numbing tasks to keep track of, I was getting a bit bored, so I time traveled to the next Sunday, completely forgetting about my turnips. Despite my anguish, I carried on with the normal daily tasks and desperately tried to find Daisy May to buy replacement turnips, with no success. I even bought this little nose drip to try and summon her, and when I say I found her immediately after, it was fate. Emboldened by this coincidence, I went ahead and bought myself 1,000 turnips for 95 bells each. As I headed home to toss them in my storage, I happened to notice that Doc's birthday was on the 16th. Very cute. This also brought my attention to the fact that it was now March, which meant our final sea creature, the spider crab, was scuttling around somewhere in the ocean. It was time to begin our search. With another scallop gifted to Pascal, I began to chase this larger shadow, which absolutely skedaddled away. And using a strategy that some of you previously commented, I waded over to the bubbles slowly and then quickly dove, nabbing myself the spider crab to round off our collection. Oh, what is this abomination? I was very excited to have finally finished up the collection, so after getting our final underwater understudy stamp, I raced to the museum to donate it to Blathers. He seemed shocked that I'd pulled it off and rewarded me with a poster that he'd be sending to my mailbox. A very lame gift, but I was still proud of myself. Only, what, like 2,000 left to catch? Having finished our first collection, I was feeling really motivated to keep trucking on with the other ones, but to my dismay, there were still no ants on my little traps. I figured I'd check back throughout the day and continued on talking to all my villagers, and when I returned, they had finally arrived. But there was one crucial issue. I didn't have a net. Frantically, I ran to check my storage shed, but there were none in there. I started scrambling around the island, trying to find where I'd left it, but by the time I'd found it and returned to the ants, they had despawned. Saddened, I instead readied myself to catch our last fish, but in one last-ditch effort, I checked again. It was a miracle! I felt so much joy, and with one careful scoop, I got one. This marked our second collection fully completed, and with the last Bugs Don't Bug Me stamp, it was official. That left us only one more creature to get, the Char. And if we did that, we'd be fully done with all three collections. I headed straight to the river next to my farm and began the hunt, catching yellow perch after yellow perch after yellow perch, until we have done it. With that one catch, we had finished the fish collection, earned our last island ichthyologist stamp, and caught every critter in the game, meaning that the only thing we had left to collect was the art, which I was not excited about. As I awoke and checked my mail the next morning, I was pleasantly surprised to receive the recipe for both the golden fishing rod and the golden bug net. I learned them both and then made these two crabs play volleyball before checking the turnip prices. 76 bells per turnip. I wasn't gonna give up hope yet though, because we could still check the prices once more after 12. While I waited, I checked in with Diana, who asked what my favorite kind of movie is, to which I responded, Romeo and Juliet. unfortunately. My visit with Doc went much better, and he even sauced me the recipe for tomato juice, which reminded me that I can be cooking dishes with my farm crops as well. And after desperately hitting every rock in search of more gold nuggets for our tools, I checked the turnip prices once again. 69 bells each. Honestly, it felt like I was being mocked by Timmy and Tommy, so I sold off all my turnips and tried again on the next Sunday. Unfortunately skipping Doc's birthday. Worse still, when I spoke with Daisy May, she was selling turnips for 106 bells each. Like, hello? I bought a couple just to hedge my bets, but this was a nightmare. I was a little down about how the morning had gone and decided to make myself feel better by completing a Nook Mile stamp. Specifically, miles. Once I'd harvested up all my farm crops, I spent like an hour cooking sugar, jellies, smoothies, tarts, and frankly anything else I had the ingredients for, earning the 4th stamp. And first thing the next morning, I booked it to Nook's Cranny to check the turnip prices, and you will never guess what they were. It was 46 bells. I want to move away. I took my anger out on all the trees and rocks on the island and checked again once the clock hit 12. 43 bells. Let me remind you, 106 bells to 43. That is criminal. At this point, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed advice from the wisest villager in all of Animal Crossing, Pascal. In exchange for 1 scallop, he imparted some much-needed wisdom. Man, if you waste your time doing something you enjoy, then you don't waste your time. You know, I try to tell myself that that's how I feel about getting these Animal Crossing achievements, but I'm not quite so sure that it is. I tried to drown away my sorrows with some retail therapy and ended up realizing I can buy the KK slider tracks from the Nook shopping app. With 81 songs remaining, this was a huge discovery and would hopefully make this goal much less painful going forward. I started us off with a juicy track of KK Marathon. Despite this glimmer of hope though, things only continued to get worse for me the following day. Right off the bat, I got attacked by wasps and directly after, once again got stung and died. But that didn't stop me from chopping wood. I only had about 700 left to go. The end was mercifully near. I also knew that one of my darling villagers would probably fix me up with some medicine, so it all turned out okay. Inspired by their kindness, I wanted to pay it forward by purchasing ourselves KK Country and then finding a scallop for Pascal. Not only did this earn us the final You Otter Nose stamp, but we were also gifted this magnificent mermaid dress. With the donation of a famous painting that I bought from Red, I took a power nap and returned to the island that night. First of all, I never play at night, so the beauty of the island kind of surprised me. It's so cozy. But we weren't here for sightseeing. I'd actually logged on in search of our next NPC to befriend, Wisp. In order to get the Wispy Island secret stamps, we'd need to help Wisp collect all his spirit pieces a total of 20 times. He appears on the island randomly between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m., so we'd basically just have to check for him every night, but unfortunately, he wasn't anywhere to be found on this day. Day 12 didn't really start off super hot either. I died right in front of Poppy, twice, so that's not really fantastic. And going into the next day, I decided to craft myself some medicine before going out to chop wood. See, I'm learning. I also made a bunch of food, bought a copy of KK Hop, and then headed out to talk to all my villagers. And although we were having trouble with Wisp, there was another NPC we needed to find that I bumped into that day. Gullivar. We also had to help him 20 times, so I was more than happy to retrieve his lost communicator. As I headed to resident services afterward to craft more flimsy axes, I happened to notice that Melba's birthday was coming up, April 12th. After missing Docs, I felt really bad, so I wanted to make an effort to actually show up to this one. Also, side note, it turns out helping Gullivar wasn't just good for our road to 100%, but I was also sent a pirate hat, which looked so freaking cool. 10 out of 10 would assist again. With my new hat, I decided to go around the island and hit more rocks in the hopes of finding booty that could be used to craft our golden tools. And directly after, well, ahoy matey. Honestly, this whole helping people out thing was doing wonders for us. After purchasing another KK song, I decided to check in with everyone and see if they had any tasks for me to do. No tasks, but Lolly had placed a gigantic kitchen in her house, which kind of pissed me off. Like, this is ruining my interior design. It looks so ugly. But this wouldn't be on my mind for long because as I took my anger out on the island's trees, I finally did it. I earned the last rough-hewn stamp. Thank the Lord. With that done, I immediately turned my focus to the stamps I wanted to knock out next. Firstly, the Miles one, for which we had 22 dishes left to make. And while running around the island that night, brainstorming others we could go for, I had an epiphany. The Capintor Shooting Star our islands. We currently had 200 shooting stars left to wish on for a stamp, but one of those special islands could definitely be our ticket to success. I really believed in this idea, so I coughed up the 1,000 miles and sailed across the sea, only to find a regular island. But all hope wasn't lost yet. This wasn't just any old regular island. This was a regular island with sugarcane, fruit, and the recipe for pear jelly. I took that as a sign that we were destined to finish up the miles tonight, and with a pocket full of fruit, I sailed back home and cooked up the final dishes we needed. We were on a fantastic roll with all the Nook Mile stamps and steadily working through the others a little bit at a time. Also, another side note, I was super confused when I visited Lolly again and the kitchen thing was entirely gone. I guess they just put them down whenever they need them. Like, I didn't know that, but that makes sense. I also happened to cross Gulliver conked out on the beach again, and upon returning his communicator parts, made my way to our most important activity of the day, Melba's birthday party. See? I didn't forget. And to celebrate her birthday, I gifted her my prized baked potatoes, the final dish we had made to earn the stamp. Definitely not because I forgot to bring an actual gift. What? I hopped on later that night to hunt for Wisp once again, and surprisingly, we were actually able to find him this time. Catching the spirit pieces proved to be super easy, and in exchange for his little life orbs, I requested something expensive. Just got some flooring. I never know what to choose here, in all honesty. I feel like I always get garbage. I was hoping that maybe we could keep the good luck going and went on another Cap'n tour, but all I got was the recipe for a medium cardboard box. No disappointment though, because we've been doing really well in this first half of the month already, so to celebrate, I decided to participate in the fishing tourney for fun. I even got all dressed up for it. With more than 3,000 fish left to catch for Nook Mile stamps, I was hoping to get a good chunk of it done today, so I just kept going until I ran out of bait. Before topping back up, I moved Doc's house in preparation for our final villager build, and I thought this spot seemed perfect. My excitement about this next island project was the only thing that fueled me through this last leg of fishing. I just really wanted to make it to 1,600. I was here for hours, but honestly it was actually really productive. I took and passed a fire safety course for my university and made 3 stream thumbnails all while doing this, so not too bad. And as soon as the counter hit 1,600, I turned in for the day, satisfied with my progress. As I checked my mail the next day, I saw that Doc had sent me something for tea time, and just like with Lucky last month, it was a stovetop espresso maker. I don't think they know what tea is. I couldn't be too upset with Doc though, because his house had officially moved and it looked so good. I was really excited to get decorating and finish up this last build. Also, Melba asked to trade the espresso maker for a shirt, and I was more than thrilled. You enjoy that thing. Once I'd checked in with everyone, returned a lost item of Sherbs, and reached 1,400 bugs caught, I decided to get decorating. As always, I started by placing down some paths. I wanted this build to be thematically similar to the little ice cream shop we'd made in the farm area, but first, I connected it to the rest of the island with our standard brick paths. I experimented with using different tile designs, but none of them felt super cohesive next to the house, so I decided to replace the paths at the top with a more neutral tone and use the iconic tiling for our larger dining area. I didn't know what to do with this little area left over. I ended up making it into like a mini picnic spot by the sea. But after ordering some tables, chairs, and other items, I called it quits on the decorating for the day. As soon as I logged back on that night, I found Celeste strolling around right outside my door. And you know what that meant? Shooting stars. Finally, our chance to finish the wishes come true Nook Mile stamp. I accepted my recipe from Celeste and then patiently waited, but nothing. I was kind of sad, but I figured I'd go check the Cap'n Tour Island and literally heard one as I was leaving. Very cool, Animal Crossing. Thank you. But this didn't matter because upon arriving, no shot. Did you see that shooting star? It's a shooting star island. Oh, frick. Put that away. Oh my gosh. We are so lucky and fortunate. Do it again. With 200 stars left to wish on, I stood on this island for literally 2 whole hours using a click counter and just sitting here until we'd completed the stamp at last. Oh my gosh. I have been standing here for genuinely like, what, 2 hours? 1 hour? I don't even know. Wishes come true. Finally. And before heading home, I collected all the star fragments on the beach, also discovering the Starhead recipe, which was just absolutely fantastic. The next day was much less eventful. I spent most of my time adding more items to Doc's build, even going to Harv's Island to customize some garden chairs, and ended up getting the Valiant statue. A huge win! With the addition of our custom chairs, as well as some ice cream cone lights and display cases, the build was coming along. And to celebrate the addition of our new Valiant statue to the museum, I attended a KK Slider concert and hunted for some sea creatures. Having made good progress on Doc's house, I decided to work a bit on our next Nook Mile stamp, DIY tools. Considering we needed to craft 1,000 tools for it and we were currently at 288, there was a lot of work to do. The bright side though is that because of all the tree chopping we did earlier for the rough hewn stamp, we had a bunch of materials available. Using the wood I had in storage, I crafted a ton of tools, and once I ran out, started going on Nook Mile tours to gather more. Excuse me? What? I was not expecting that. Okay. That's another golden tool. Now, at this point in real life, I was going on a trip to Vancouver to visit family. This was about a 13-hour flight there and back, and I took this as an opportunity to do nothing but obsessively catch fish, bugs, and sea creatures. And I made a ton of progress, let me tell you. My first priority as soon as I got home was to continue grinding on these Nook Mile stamps. So after checking my mailbox, did someone just send me the Rosetta Stone in the mail? And placing some shoji dividers behind nooks, I hopped back in the ocean and got to work. And after all of that suffering, we had done it. I had finally caught 2,500 sea creatures, earning the 5th and final deep dive stamp. I'm never getting rid of this octopus. To celebrate such a feat, I went around and spoke with all my villagers, also earning myself the last island togetherness stamp. I was so immensely happy about this progress that I decided to spend the rest of the day working on Doc's build, cleaning up my overgrown flowers, and crafting an obscene amount of shovels to work toward the DIY tools stamp. But that wasn't all. The sea creature stamp was just the beginning. And knowing this, I spent over 5 hours that night preparing for our next big challenge, the last 2 angling for perfection stamps. With over 3,000 fish left to catch, this would undoubtedly be our greatest challenge yet. To start us off strong, I fished for a couple hours the next morning and earned the 4th stamp, then turning my attention back to decorating Doc's house. I set out lots of items, dividers, and paths, and also sectioned off the ice cream store area from the stretch below where I wanted to do some little cottagecore decorations to match Melba's build. Although the decorating was going well, I was feeling super motivated by having completed so many Nook Mile stamps that I decided to take a break and work on the DIY furniture stamp. And I had a little method that would make it substantially easier to complete. Essentially, I was just going to go between crafting a document stack and scattered papers over and over again because the only material required to craft them was the other item. So you're basically just sitting there stacking papers and then knocking the pile over repeatedly. After doing this for a solid couple hours and reaching 654 furniture items crafted, I was incredibly tired of this song and dance. But the good thing about wasting all this time on such a menial task was that it was now nighttime and Wisp was visiting the island, so a little bit of a win there. The next morning, Poppy also sent me a gift to brighten my spirits and ended her letter with, "I really hope you like it. If not, please don't tell me," which is so real. I felt that. And uplifted by Poppy's kindness, I found the strength to power through and craft the last 400 document stacks, getting the 4th DIY furniture stamp. As usual, I used this success as an excuse to be financially irresponsible and purchased myself a yacht, a castle tower, and a crane game, also nabbing the last bell ringer stamp. With some of these larger scale goals out of the way for the time being, I spent the entire rest of my day adding to Doc's build and honestly just enjoying the process of some super chill decorating. It was really coming along and I was super proud of how it looked. Now, an unfortunate part of 100%ing this game was, of course, collecting all the KK Slider songs, and I'd been purchasing them every day from the Nook shop throughout this entire month. I added a handful more to our record player, ordered a copy of KK Lament, and then realized as I was watering some flowers, I hadn't crafted any of the new golden tools I'd received. I booked it home and crafted up a golden rod, watering can, axe, and net, getting a couple of new stamps for it too. This left only the golden shovel, and to get that, we needed to help Gulliver a total of 20 times. After crafting up a ton more tools and getting the 4th DIY tools stamp, I went out to look for Gulliver. And shockingly, he actually turned out to be slumped on the beach that day. What luck! With those communicator parts returned, we only needed to find him 5 more times, and I'd most likely be going over the 30 days I generally play in a month. Like, I was so determined to collect the full set of golden tools. Having fully finished up Doc's ice cream store and the area around it for the time being, I decided to turn my focus to decorating the beach on the left side of my island, which was looking pretty empty. I've been wanting to add some type of cute fishing spot to part of the island for a while now, and I figured this would be the perfect place to do it. I thought it fit pretty well, being close to the dock and kind of gelling with Wolfgang's vibe too, like being outside enjoying nature and such. First, I added a cool cave to sort of section the area off, as well as a docking area below where I put my new yacht. And also my second yacht. I didn't know I already had one. That's kind of my bad. I also wanted to build up the area near the bamboo forest slash zen garden to try and blend things together a little more seamlessly. With some new paths, a darling little pergola, and more new paths, I called it a day and watched a KK Slider concert collecting a bootleg of Farewell, one of the 3 hidden KK Slider songs. With our time in this month quickly waning, I wanted to make sure to finish up all our current decorating projects, starting with the beach. Mostly, I just added some more little details like this life preserver, some seating next to the cabin tours, as well as cargo to be loaded onto our yachts. I was feeling pretty good, having made the place a little bit cuter, and was struck with a dangerous thought. Maybe it was finally time to decorate my house. I'm gonna tell you right now, it certainly was not. I started on a bit of reorganizing, but it quickly became clear that I had nowhere near enough stuff to start working on that. Honestly, I'm a little sad that the Happy Home DLC doesn't allow you to decorate your own home with all the Paradise Planning items and such. Like, the couple streams I did completely redecorating my villagers' houses were genuinely so much fun, but without the infinite items, finishing up mine is gonna be pretty rough. But I didn't want to end the month on such a disappointing note, so I pulled up my britches and buckled my bootstraps or something. Isn't that like a thing people say? I don't get that. And returned to the document stack grind. For 5 whole hours, I did nothing but sit there and craft. Back and forth. Back and forth. Over and over and over again. I hate paper so much. It's been 5 hours. I never want to see a document stack again. By the time I finished, it was literally 4 a.m. Like, I went to Harv's Island and all the vendors were closed. Yeah, that tracks. I didn't even know they did that, if I'm being real. However, this whole time, I'd been guarding a dastardly secret. Behind the scenes, I had been secretly playing extra days and helping Gulliver. Like a lot of days. It took a long time. And on our 30th legitimate day, when I spotted Gulliver on the beach and returned his communicator, we were rewarded with the final Gulliver's Travails stamp. To finish off this successful month, I hopped on the next morning to claim the ultimate prize for our efforts. The cherry on top of this 11th month of Animal Crossing. A barrel. That's not what... No. I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, it did look fantastic in our dock area, but I was genuinely really confused. My first thought was like, okay, yeah, it probably takes like 2 days for him to send the golden shovel recipe because like customs, and yeah, no, for sure. So I returned 1 day later and raced to check my mail. Nothing. I couldn't believe it. I could have shed a tear, yet somehow I mustered the strength to visit Red's ship and check his stock. Next month is gonna be all about collecting the art, so I figured a small head start would be nice. Feeling defeated, I purchased this wistful painting. Partly because I did still need it, but also because it felt fitting given my wistful feelings about the golden shovel. Truly, the one that got away. Well, despite that crushing disappointment, we did accomplish a lot in this episode. Not only did we officially finish decorating every single one of our villager homes, but we also collected a staggering amount of Nook Mile Stamps, earned 3 more golden tools, and, I mean, honestly just suffered a lot, but like in a generative way, you feel? But as soul-crushing as this month was, I knew deep down that the next one would be even more challenging. We'll be collecting over 70 KK Slider songs, decorating our whole house to reach an S-rank Happy Home Academy score, earning like 10 billion gajillion bells from turnips. The list truly goes on. It's gonna be a wild ride, so I hope you'll join me for the rest of this journey. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'd absolutely love to have you here, and it means a bunch. That is all I have for today, but I will see you guys next time. Bye!